What up, fam? It's On My X, episode number 20, coming at you early this week. We couldn't wait to get this off our chest. We got another amazing special guest joining us today that we're excited about. But before we get there, I got to introduce my friends and co-hosts, the usual guys that have been rocking with me for 20 weeks. Faisal Khan, a.k.a. Goofy, say what's up to the people.
What's going on? Let's keep it short and sweet, man. We got a great episode ahead of us. So yeah, man, I'm excited to be here for another episode number 20 of On My X, and we're gonna dive into some juicy topics today. So I'm ready. I'm ready.
Yeah. I'm ready too. And you know me, I'm Justin 100X, just your resident Halo streaming noob. So glad to be here with you guys. And above me, we got a national champion. It's Wes Price. It's Clutch. Say what's up, man.
I see how humble Hunter is after a week's span, Faisal. He was riding on cloud nine, came in like a wrecking ball 2 episodes ago, talking about
The champ is here.
yeah,
talking about
throwing up to Aaron Rodgers. Like, we're all having to sit there and look around. He's quickly humbled. It's crazy what that kind of a world will do to you, but I'm doing great. I know this is coming out on Thursday, so super excited to give you all a little bit of early content for the week. And I hope you guys enjoy.
Yeah. With that being said, we've got a very special guest to introduce. I'm going to let Wes do the honors because someone real near and dear to his heart.
Yeah, absolutely. So couldn't be more excited to bring this guy on. There's definitely a reason we're coming out with a Thursday episode this week. The HCS is actually dropping some super important news. Couldn't be more excited to share it, and who better to bring on than the Halo Esports Lead at Microsoft and 343. It's Tashi.
What up?
Hey.
What up?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
It's going well, man. Excited, obviously, for everyone watching. You have seen the blog posted by Tashi and the ACS crew, and we're just excited to kind of get into it. So, Tashi, I just wanted to start off just kind of getting your feelings. How how are you excited? Are you nervous? How are you feeling about having this information out there? And obviously, we'll go into specifics of certain parts of the blog, but I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on everything and how you're feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to get some more information out there. I know on the esports side, we've been pretty quiet most of the year, especially as it pertains to kind of long-term stuff. We've had the MCC Pro Series and the H5 Pro Series going on, and we've shared kind of updates there. But really, since the 5-year anniversary blog, we hadn't really talked a lot about, what the esports plans look like for Halo Infinite. And as I noted in today's update, that's because of all the changes that have been happening due to COVID and then also the game delay. So we've just been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. And now that we have a new release date for the game of fall 2021, we're ready to start, communicating more and sharing more of what we've been working on. So today's update is kind of the beginning of that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Justin, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I love it. I was the part of the blog that really stood out to me was obviously when we talk about the Infinite release date being moved. One of the good things coming out of it is more than likely, fingers crossed, knock on wood, all that, we would go back to live events and that sort of plan with Infinite being delayed like it was. I wanted to ask you a little bit about. The last kind of section you talked a little bit about transparency, and I think it's super important to be transparent. I think that first and foremost, you've done an amazing job of that in terms of like being available and being easy to reach. I see you responding to people on Twitter every day, and I'm just surprised. I'm like, I can't believe he actually takes the time to talk to people. But moving forward with like HCS and Infinite stuff, we've heard the term transparency thrown around in the past, and I feel like it's kind of gotten my hopes up in the past. So my question is, what sort of steps are you guys taking to really ensure that there is a good amount of transparency moving forward?
Yeah, I think for us, the first time that we were really out there and as transparent as I think people wanted is when we made the big change at the end of Halo 5, when we started partnering with MLG. We changed the whole format. I did like an AMA on Reddit. But honestly, since then, we've been spotty probably in terms of the transparency that we've had with the community as far as like our long-term plans. And so We want to change that. And like I mentioned, especially this year, we did have plans to share a whole lot, and we had plans for the whole program that are now being changed because of the game delay. So we're obviously still hard at work on that, but we want to make sure that we are bringing the community along step by step. And one of the ways that we're doing that is, like I noted in the today's update, is those monthly blog series that we're going to be releasing starting at the end of January. And for us, we've been working behind the scenes on putting together what the Halo Esports ecosystem looks like for the long term. And I think in the past with HCS, we were so focused on just trying to catch up. We were running and operating like months and months at a time. And I think now for Infinite, we're starting to think years and years at a time. And to put all that together, it takes a ton of effort, but it takes a lot of kind of orchestration in the back end. And so I think we want to share what that looks like, share what our vision is, and how we've been working and putting it all together. And so that hopefully the community understands kind of how all these puzzle pieces fit together, because I think it's easy to kind of get wrapped up in, this is my region, this is the partner that whose platform I play on, or this is my like bubble that I live in. But for us, we have to think about the entire world and all the players and teams that participate, all the tournament operators, all the sponsors, all the teams, everything, how it all fits together, amateur players, pro players, all the fans and viewers. Like, there's so many different pieces of the puzzle that have to come together for this to be a super successful long-term ecosystem for Halo. And we want to start kind of sharing what that looks like. So that's what that blog series is going to try to accomplish.
Very, very cool. Very cool. And I like that you brought up the puzzle pieces and how much has to kind of shift and move and work together. Kind of goes right into kind of what my other question for you was going to be. And knowing that there's a lot of folks over at 343, a lot of you guys working at that studio. Last I heard, there was like 600 or 700 of you guys there, and I know you guys are broken up into yeah, and this, you guys are broken up into different teams: MCC team, HCS team, Halo Infinite team. How do you guys like stay connected? Like for you, for example, your job, there's so much in motion when it comes to Infinite and everything else going on there. How are you able to sort of build HCS around something like Infinite that's, the development's been so fluid?
Yeah, so for us, it's really about the partnerships and relationships we have with the various folks on the dev team. So, what's really exciting is, and I'm coming up on 7 years at 343 now. The passion for esports that the development team has now is greater than it's ever been. And so we have a really strong relationship, of course, with Pro Team, who we meet with on, twice a week now, I think it is, Wes.
At least.
Yeah. And we probably need to actually increase that.
I can't get you out of my meetings.
Thanks. We're meeting with the design leads across, sandbox, multiplayer, even the live team who manage, they were introduced, like Ryan Parody and Chris Blom, the guys who were in the big blog update that a community team put together a few weeks ago. Like, those guys are thinking about esports all the time and keeping us in mind. And we always have meetings to go over what features we want to work on together. How can they best support esports? How can we support what they're trying to accomplish? And so that's really where it starts, is with the people and the partnerships that we have from them. And, from there, we work together to build up what both parties need to be successful, So that's kind of how it works.
Very cool. Go ahead, Wes. I'll let you go. Or yeah, Faisal, if you had a thought.
No, go ahead, Wes.
Yeah, I would say, just to add on to Tashi's point on that, it's obviously the HCS team and the Infinite team are separate entities, but like, I feel like the pro team being established, all of us having that HCS experience, all of us coming from that similar kind of a background, all have so much passion for the HCS, and then it feels like everybody from the HCS side also has that passion for just competitive Halo in general, and wanting the game to be great. So it's a pretty easy relationship to have when your passions are in the right place, right? Or and they're all similar. So
yeah, no, that's a good point, because I actually, like, most of the guys on your team I already knew and met at various
Right.
yes
They all
events.
played in the ACS
Yeah.
at
So
some point,
pretty
or
cool. Yeah.
whatever form of it. So
Very cool.
Um, I had a question. Wes, are you still continuing your question? I'm sorry, I didn't know if you were
no. You're
cool.
fine. I was thinking of a question since Hunter stole mine, so it's,
Yeah,
it's fine.
I noticed that, Wes.
No, I wanted
Thank
to,
you.
and I know you. I'm sure Tashi like meticulously wrote this blog, kind of putting in what you can and what you don't want to divulge too much. And I noticed the tidbits here and there, and naturally, I want to ask what I'd imagine a lot of people would ask, and what really stuck out to me in one of the sections in your blog, which was the bullet point was teams, right? So you break down obviously a bunch of new orgs coming into the scene, and you mentioned something that really stuck out to me, and that was, I'll read it here. So we've put together a team partnership program that Halo has never had before. So again, I prefaced my question with saying that I know you kind of put what you could, but I wanted to see if the people on my X viewers could kind of get a better idea as to what that means. I know when it comes to just competitive gaming in general, I know you've mentioned this plenty of times, whether it be publicly via Twitter on the shows that we do. You said you want everyone to be able to succeed and thrive when it comes to Halo Esports, not just necessarily the top 0.1% of players in the world. So kind of break down what plans you guys have for kind of including the entire community in this Halo ecosystem, whether it be AM players or pro players, and what kind of benefits they might be able to see moving forward.
Sure. So I'll start with the teams point. So in the past, teams would come and go into Halo 5, and we didn't really have relationships with them. So we would see a team join Halo and find out the same exact time that all the fans did. They would announce it on Twitter and be like, oh, they're in Halo now. Great. And we wouldn't have a contact with them really. And then they would leave and be like, oh, we actually didn't know they were leaving. And so it was kind of like this relationship which just like didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that for Halo Esports to be successful in the future, and really this is all esports, or I would say most, I don't know about all, but teams are a critical part of it. So they not only have this big fan base and help with viewership, but they also provide sustainability for the pro players, right? Pay out a salary and share benefits and things like that. So they're a critical part to it all. And the way the industry has matured over time is a lot of these teams now, they're no longer organizations that are being run in whatever people's basements and things like that. Like there's large investment coming into these teams. They think about their businesses more critically, and they look to have official relationships with publishers in ways that they have not had in the past. And so we recognize that, and we learned that over time. And we had skins in Halo 5, so that was pretty amazing program. And back then in Halo 5, like we were one of the first games to have skins like that for esports teams. So that was great. And we knew we wanted to, for Halo Infinite, kind of build things more closely with teams. So that's been a huge part into what goes into the ecosystem and what will hopefully provide kind of long-term sustainability. And for them, like they need to know that their investment, which, right, you talk about player salary, manager, coach,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, media opportunities, like the costs add up for teams. And so they need to know that their investment in an ecosystem is going to be fruitful. And they need to know that for the next X amount of months, this is what they're budgeting out. These are the resources they're allocating, and they know this is what they expect to get out of it. And for some games, they might not have a direct relationship with the publisher, but there's tons of viewership in the game, and so that's where they get a lot of their benefits from. And for others, they look for more direct partnership that will actually give them some revenue. So we want to try to find the right partnership that works for teams, and it works for us, and it works for everyone in the ecosystem. So that's absolutely critical to kind of the long-term success and how we see it. And we're not quite ready to dive into all the specifics, but I think you'll start to see, if you haven't already, some of the writings on the wall I know there's been a lot of head scratching. It's just like, oh, why is this team joining Halo? That's so random. It's not random actually. So there's been a lot of orchestration behind the scenes, and we can't wait to share more. I think players and fans are going to be pretty blown away with the partnership program and what we've got lined up. So honestly, that's one of the more exciting things that I've had the pleasure of working on.
Nice.
Yeah. To your other question about how we see amateur players and pro players, was that your question?
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of just for people, say if I'm an amateur player, right, and I'm watching this episode, what could you say that would make me excited about the prospect of Halo Infinite coming around, right? Knowing obviously my goal is to try to become a pro player if I'm an amateur player watching this, but even with that being said, what is something that the amateur players or the people that are coming up can be excited about, with Infinite kind of coming up in fall of 2021?
Yeah. So let's see. So long term for the game and for the esport, you need to have a thriving and bustling amateur scene, right? These are your future pro players when your older pros decide to retire or fall off or whatever it is. And it's also exciting from a viewership standpoint, right? This is like the new up and coming talent who came out of nowhere, burst out onto the scene, right? We've seen it in Halo's past, with players like yourselves, right? So everyone has like those humble beginnings. And so we need to make sure that we nurture those humble beginnings because, today's amateur players are tomorrow's superstars. And that's absolutely critical. Now, I think where we may have faltered in the past is a lot of segregation in the scene, where your pros was very much like a niche club. It's a haves and haves nots. If you're a pro, you get all the benefits. If you're an amateur, you get nothing. And that just doesn't work. And so that's one of the critical pieces that we're looking to solve for the Halo Infinite timeframe, which is, how do we give amateur players, opportunities to kind of grow as players, become more competitive, get good practice, have the opportunities to, prove to themselves or prove to the world really that, they can hang and go pro, and they have those opportunities to do that. So obviously, when it comes time to loading into the game, like they need to earn it. And if you're a pro player winning all the tournaments, you're going to get the most benefits in the ecosystem. That's just kind of the way it works with, competition. But we need to make sure that amateur players feel like they have the opportunity to actually rise to the top, and it's a legitimate opportunity. It's not just like on paper. They actually need to feel like I have a real shot. And I think the other part of it that we also think about is what that looks like globally, because obviously in terms of competition, if you look at the results, the teams in the United States are the ones that are, and Canada, sorry, Royal too. The teams in North America are the ones that are winning all the tournaments, right? And so for us, if we're going to be putting on tournaments on a global scale, it's important that your players in Latin America, in Europe, and Australia, they can actually compete on a global stage, right? So it's important for us that we give them the foundation to actually compete on that level, because if we're asking, let's say, Australia to send representatives to the Halo World Championship, we need to make sure they can actually compete. And that's not going to happen overnight, right? Like a huge shift like that potentially doesn't happen, or it takes years to happen. But it will never happen if they don't have a proper foundation and avenue to rise to the top. The last thing I want to note is we really want to make sure that the tournaments and everything we do is just really aspirational, right? Like we want people to look at the snake bites of the world and admire someone like that who has, obviously worked his way up to the top, but is getting a lot of the luxuries that come with being a pro player, right? He's on an amazing team with Sentinels. He gets to play on main stage. People love watching his matches. He gets to, hoist trophies, things like that. Like we want people to look at people like Snakebite winning and be like, damn, like I want that to be me one day. And it needs to feel like something that people want to go for and strive for as well.
Definitely. No, just as a fan of Halo, And like you said, someone who's been on both sides of that competitive fence, being an amateur player and working my way through the ranks and becoming a pro eventually, it is exciting. And honestly, in today's world, like in today's esports culture, right? Esports has grown exponentially since when I've been in the esports scene, as all of us really have, for over a decade. And it's crazy to think that it's not just I mean, obviously this is the most obvious statement of all time. It's not just a hobby anymore. It's literally people are setting up generational wealth when it comes to winning some of these tournaments and making smart investments when you have sponsorships and you're getting these salaries. So it really is like we're the pioneers essentially of this new industry, right? So it's exciting to hear that you guys are recognizing that and really setting up your future stars and your future, what you're going to be putting out to the world when it comes to these amateur players. And so, like you said, setting up that ecosystem for them to be able to succeed and thrive. And obviously, like without it even being said, the pro players and the top of the top, you're going to benefit the most. And that's like you said, that's the whole point of competition and trying to be the best. But it is good to know that there's going to be something set in place, and obviously more details to follow as far as that amateur ecosystems, so to say, and kind of setting them up for success as well. So and again, Tashi, thank you so much for kind of breaking down as much as you can on this episode, and we're just excited to get an opportunity to kind of dig a little bit deeper into this. So again, thank you for that.
Absolutely, yeah. Keep digging. I'm a long time first time caller.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about Infinite, but I want to jump into the here and now. I want the nitty gritty of where Halo Esports is now. One of the things I've mentioned a couple times on the show is that it's honestly, like, with the lack of LAN events, it's been super cool to have something to look forward to playing in every single week. Whether it's you love Classic Halo or Halo 5, there's been avenues for competitors of both generations to kind of compete every week with these Face It tournaments, esports arena tournaments, and whatnot. And we just kind of had a season. We're kind of in an off season right now, gearing up for on the blog post it says early 2021. I guess what I would ask you is, looking back on this last year and the shifts and stuff that you guys had to make to these online tournaments, what were some of the wins to you immediately that stand out, but also what were some of the things that you feel like need to be worked on and will be worked on for the future?
Yeah, so I would say some of the wins are, I think the format at a high level that we have in place for the MCC Pro Series and H5 Pro Series, where it's alternating between opens and pros, and then every 2 weeks the amateur players and the pro players get to compete against each other, has actually been what I would consider pretty successful. For us, that was kind of a new format that we wanted to experiment with, and we wanted to give open players a better opportunity to compete. And obviously, it's not a perfect system. There's ways that we can improve that. But I think largely what's been exciting to see is you see players and teams in the top 8 that you hadn't really seen before, and you see them improving week over week. The team that comes to mind is I'm forgetting the team name, but it was Common was on the team.
It was Saintly and Common and those guys. Yeah,
like those guys were just like climbing their way up, and it got to the place where they were top 8.
All natural. That's what they were called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in my mind, like, creating a system that allowed for something like that to happen was definitely a win. I would say some of the places where we didn't do as well as we needed to was just overall, just operationally, there were bumps in how the tournaments ran with administration and communication there. Like, we didn't get out and announce things as soon as we wanted to. There was a lot of like paperwork holdup, which is unfortunate but happens. And just not great communication from the administration standpoint in the handbook. And it felt like at times we were playing whack-a-mole, where we would resolve one issue and then the next week something else would pop up. And so we've made a lot of strides there with Face It, and we've added more people to the crew, and we've added more meetings every week, and new systems and checklists and everything to kind of make it run as smoothly as we can. And we've hired people from the community to come help operate the tournaments, and given them an opportunity to work on that side too. So it still hasn't, I don't think, gone as well as it should have. So I would say that is probably the biggest one that stands out to me.
And I would imagine like there's a balance, right, with in your position between holding, like, there's accountability that has to happen and it has to be there, right, with these organizers and stuff, but at the same time it's like a relationship that you don't want to damage, so
Yeah, but ultimately I think that falls on us. Like, it's our program, and when people tweet at me angrily about tournaments not going well, like, that's okay. Like, um, you know, ultimately, like, it's on me and our team to make sure those go as smoothly as they can. So that's okay.
very cool. Well, my last kind of question, I don't know if you're able to answer it. You said early 2021. Do we have do you have a window yet in terms of, are you looking at January, February, March in terms of, everything kind of getting back up and running, or
I'm trying to
is
play
it still
some more
being
Halo
worked out?
3, baby. MCC.
Feels like I got a weekly check to collect.
Yeah, we don't want to wait too long. The thing that we're waiting on right now is for the double elimination feature
That's pretty cool.
be ready on the Faceit platform. So, we wanted to be kind of transparent and share like that it's on the way, but unfortunately, it's just taken a bit longer than we had anticipated. So, what we don't want to do is kind of share a date and then have to move it out. So, when we share those dates, we want to be 100% sure that the the updated format will be in place. So
Yeah,
we don't want to wait too long, but yeah.
You're
I'm
like,
super
hey,
excited.
face it, there's this thing called a challenge. Have you heard? No, I'm just kidding. Wes, go ahead, man.
I'm super excited about that double EUM getting back into the regular of Halo tournaments. I think that does such a wonder for our community. Not only does it like really establish your placings more, what's the word, like, I want to say articulately, but that's not what I'm looking for. It actually, like, I feel like in double EUM you get better data on results,
More accurate placings.
more accurate.
Yeah.
Right. But especially while we're dealing with all this the COVID stuff and having to be online all the times, time after time, I think we see whether or not it's internet issues, power outages, you name it, it happens during some of these tournaments. It's really unfortunate to watch teams lose their entire tournament because one of these happens. So at least it gives more opportunity to, if things like that go wrong and you kind of just like didn't get, like, you got extremely unlucky, potentially you can still look at the losers bracket and make a run that you can represent yourself well enough, and it doesn't make it feel as abrupt as potentially something going wrong, and you just having that one life in the tournament, right? So
Yeah,
I'm super excited for that.
yeah, and now that we've kind of split up the Halo 5 competition regionally, so that each of the regions are participating in their own tournaments, and things have kind of leveled off a bit, I'd say, in terms of participation. It's a lot easier for us to plan for the size of the bracket and making sure that we can, operate it as smoothly as possible. So, that's a big component of it too.
Right.
Very cool. Very cool. Go ahead,
So
Faisal.
I got a question, and this is just me again as a Halo fan, and pretty much everything I've been saying or talking about is just from that side of things, just genuinely curious and interested, right? So I guess this is a question for both Wes and Tashi, because obviously Wes kind of playing both sides here. He's part of the All My X crew, but he's also part of the Tashi
Where
crew,
are your
so to
allegiances,
say.
Wes? Where are your allegiances?
No, my question is pretty serious though. It's in terms in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic, obviously, right? Now that the pandemic threw a wrench in everyone around the world's life, causing issues that we didn't foresee and new ways of life that we didn't predict. Now, Tashi, I want to start with you. What do you think was the most difficult thing when it came to this COVID pandemic? Obviously, like, when it comes to Halo Infinite, that got moved up. When it comes to live events, that got, delayed. So there's so many different answers to pick from here. But what do you think like what are some of the most difficult things that the pandemic presented to you and your team, and how do you think you kind of reacted to that, and what are some things that I guess it taught you in terms of the importance of communication, and now in this world we're living in where everything's remote and you're working from home a lot of the times. What are some of the struggles, or the main struggle that you think came from the pandemic, and how you kind of recovered from that?
Yeah, I think the biggest struggle, and this is a great question because I think it helps us kind of paint the picture with what we've been working through. And really, I say we, but I mean like the industry as well.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest struggle is that the pandemic created this essentially giant wall of fog, and you could only ever see so far out into the future. And so, especially early on when cases were still rising, it was being discovered in different countries. Yeah, they had kicked off creating a vaccine, but everything was still so unknown and still new. How can we trying to plan a 12-month esports roadmap with live events possibly predict when the pandemic is going to end, when the global Microsoft security and events team are going to feel comfortable enough to give us the green light to have live events again, and when all of our tournament operator partners who are going to be putting on these events, like what's happening to their businesses, right? Obviously, like that's going to have a big impact in them as they have to pivot to online. There's just this giant wall of fog where we could only see out kind of like weeks at a time, and we would think about like, well, maybe we could start having live events in, January or whatever it is. And when you really get down to actually making a decision like that, and not only like booking a venue if they are even taking bookings and allowing that, but putting the money down, taking the risk, and also taking the risk more importantly on players and staff and fans. And if you're not totally sure that you can create a safe environment, that's just not a risk you take. And so for us, it was, how do we plan out 12 months when we can only see what's going to happen weeks in front of us? And so that was definitely the most difficult part. I think it's a bit easier now because we've been in the pandemic for a while. There's a vaccine. There seems to be like a pretty clear path to when things will clear up and a consensus.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, things are extremely difficult right now with cases rising all over the world. But when you look further into the future, our hope is that when Halo Infinite releases in fall 2021, that the vaccine has been distributed around the world, and we're able to have big live events again in a safe way. So that's been the most challenging part by far. It's just this like giant wall of fog that you can't see through.
Right.
I'd say
Yeah.
other things that have been difficult are just how we work as a team. We're a creative bunch. We really like to work together. The office or I should say the studio at 343 is the open floor plan, so we all sit next to each other. We have an HCS room with a giant whiteboard. We met every morning. Like we had our routines, and working through that has been challenging, of course. And we had some new people join the team, and they were literally in the studio for like 2 weeks. Pandemic hit, and now they're working from home. So you have these people that are entirely new to the team, new to the state, and now all this hit, and it's just kind of working through all of that stuff and taking it day by day. And when it's affecting your work in that way too, the thing that you feel like you have some control over, it's incredibly difficult, right? And then the game gets delayed on top of that, and it's been really tough. So I don't want to kind of understate that, but we are working through it. Like I said, like we're hoping to have live events again for the time when Halo Infinite releases. And we just, you guys know it better than I do, but like live events is kind of the lifeblood of this game. And so the prospect of thinking of us being an online only ecosystem is almost unfathomable, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
it's absolutely critical for our players and fans and everyone.
So, do you look at like organizations like the NBA, and you see, obviously they're they're a sport where everyone's in close proximity, and they found a way to kind of create this bubble system. Right now, I know that's a very specific example, but I'm being a basketball fan. I think that the way the NBA did it was amazing and innovative and successful and surprising, because I didn't expect something like that to be able to, for them to accomplish something like that, where you get all these people, all these athletes in a bubble, and you're able to complete the season, have a full playoffs, and crown a champion at the end of it, right? So God willing, and hopefully, this, with everything, it's like you said, at the end of the day, Tashi, it's still unclear. Like, yeah, we have a path forward. Looks like, there's a vaccine going around, and that's great. And things are looking hopeful finally after a long, tough year. But has anything like that potentially been on y'all's radar? Like, hey, even if, like, because we're talking about millions of dollars, right? We're talking about big tournaments, big organizations, money on the line. Like, there's a lot to be thought about here. And I can't help but think, like, if worst case scenario, and I don't even want to, put it out in the world, but if, say, like, things start to just get back in a position where, the CDC and everyone's not saying, like, hey, we still got to have restrictions, and we still got to go about things a little uncertain. Is the plan right now, just if that something like that happens, we'd have to be an online situation, or is there a potential for, like, a bubble or something where you get the pro teams and pro players in an area? Is that something you could talk about, or is that just kind of way too vague right now?
No, I think right now we're we're planning with all the latest information that's out there. And I think right now the ambition is being able to go back to live events. I think when Infinite comes out, if we're in a world where we are unable to do live events for whatever reason, then we're absolutely going to try to turn over every stone to see what we're able to accomplish there. So obviously that's still a ways out, and we don't know what that will look like exactly. But yeah, we had talked about it, if we needed to do something like that. And if it comes up, or if it comes to that, we need to explore that again, we will. But right now we're hoping that's not the case. And
Definitely,
at least, knock on wood, there, knock on wood, knock on wood, it doesn't seem like that will be the case. But again, like you said, like, things could change. So
no, totally. And
Yeah.
I guess I've just been traumatized by the year, because, like, every time it seems like, okay, things are looking better. The year 2020 just kept getting worse and worse. So it's probably just my own internal, fear coming out. But no, to be honest, I'm right there with you. I think I like to think of myself as being an optimistic person, and optimistic but still realistic, right? I'm happy to know that the vaccine has made strides and it's been approved by the FDA, all that good stuff. And here's to hoping that everything continues to move upward. So yeah, that's exciting.
I gotta jump in here and just say, obviously we're rooting for Halo. We're rooting for you guys. We're rooting for everything to, we'll see. That's been a
Rooting
crazy
for
year.
us, not you guys. This is us.
And we're hoping that 2020 is not the trailer for 2021, obviously. But I wanted to change the mood a little bit. Since you are an official guest of On My X, you don't get to escape my question that I ask every single guest that's on the show. So we'll have a little fun here for a second. But I ask everybody that's on the show, what is the most what's that pops in your head immediately, the most memorable, outrageous, funny, behind the scenes LAN story that pops right into your head immediately when I ask you the question?
Tashi actually is the perfect person to ask.
Exactly.
He's the head honcho running all this stuff. So I'm sure he's had, over the course of dealing with all this.
What kind of story do you guys want to hear? Like a crazy, like, operational story, or do you want to hear, like, a crazy, like,
bless us with something? I don't care.
Give me something funny. I know Side had to have done something terribly wrong at some point.
It always comes back to Side.
Side stories.
Yeah.
I love Mike. We sat next to each other for a couple of years.
Mike's a great guy.
Yeah.
Great guy.
The best.
The first thing that pops in my mind, it's not really a fun story. It's like a stressful story.
Let's do it. Let's get stressed out.
All right. So hopefully maybe it'll spark, like, a fun story out of it. Actually, now that I think about it, South by Southwest was actually a ton of fun. Yeah, so the stressful story that I'm thinking of is the HCS grassroots announcement at DreamHack Atlanta 2018. So we made this trailer. Shout out to Muggsy, he made the whole video to announce the program. And we had website lined up with applications ready to be taken. We had a blog. Of course, we had the videos going up on YouTube. We were going to go on stream. I was going to go on the desk and talk. Actually, Wes, you were an analyst for that segment.
At South by?
No. This was at DreamHack Atlanta.
Oh, okay,
Yeah. And so it's Championship Sunday, and the team is like getting ready, and the video is supposed to play like right before the grand finals. We had it timed. We're coordinating with teams back in Redmond, and everything was looking good, right? And then I'm walking backstage. It's like the first hour of the show, right? So we're hours away now from that having to be announced, and when I need to like go on stage or on the desk, and Muggsy comes running backstage, and he's just like, they're playing the Grassroots video. And so I'm like, what? So I look up at the projector and I just see like the video, and I just had this moment of like, because we've been working on that video for so long, and it's so I don't know how to explain it. It's so weird to see this thing in a totally different context. You know what I mean? Like we've been looking at like, you know, over the shoulder previews of Muggsy's screen, and like now to see it kind of out there in front of everyone playing. And I just like, which I normally don't do, but usually when there's like crazy fires, and they happen at every event, you can ask anyone, any game, there are crazy fires.
There's always something tragically going on.
I'm usually like super calm, level-headed. Like I'm usually really even keeled. And I just like screamed the F word backstage.
Oh my God.
And I was like, okay, we need to like, you know, fix this. So we ended up like pushing all the buttons, getting everything live, and we decided like we're just gonna do it now. And so we hadn't had the time to like brief the talent, right?
No.
So,
I remember you asked me a question. I was like, I didn't even see the video.
yeah. So,
but I was paying enough attention to where I asked some vague, like, easy question.
So so we're in break now, and I have to pull the talent and be like, hey, there's this video that we were going to use later. It just went out live now. And shout out to US and Lottie and Elamite who are on the desk, like total effing pros. And we aired the video again. Lottie introed me, and she made a funny joke about like, oh, we like to keep you on our toes here, something like this. I remember like laughing to myself. And yeah, so it was like within like 10 minutes, we went from like, you know, the show going as planned to all this. Sorry, there was like a random knock at my door. The show going as planned to like chaos breaking out, and now I'm on a camera like all flustered, trying to like explain what everything will look like. So that was like a crazy chaotic moment. It ended up working out. I think all the announcements went over well. People were hyped as hell about the UGC Halo 3 event. That thing sold like a ton of team passes. And I mean, I remember my phone blowing up with applications for the program. So yeah, it ended up working out, and it's a moment we could look back on and laugh. That was like a crazy.
That's production for you though, right? You just never know. Something like that could happen on a dime.
It's pretty incredible what it takes to put on an event like that. I mean, you're talking like a DreamHack event. They have like 8+ stages with full productions. I mean, these people are literally loading up trucks with all this equipment, unboxing it, wiring everything together, you know, testing it, and then like hours before people start flooding in, you know, everything is ready to go. And then once the weekend is over, unboxing everything, throwing in the truck, and like off they go. And yeah, I mean, shout out to all the production people who are like the engineers and the people who rig the stages and everything. Like
all the staff, those guys are wild. Those guys are always busy. Like, they are nonstop moving things for 4 days.
And you get used to like what they look like when they're really
just
laser focused, walkie-talkie at their hip, they're just like hat on looking at something, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to interrupt right now. He's like dealing with like this LED panel
A
that's
big
like
deal.
hanging.
Yeah.
I'm playing Frogger in the back, just trying to make sure I don't get ran over.
Oh,
by
God.
one.
Yeah.
Well, I have one last kind of infinite HCS sort of question, and then I'll let these other guys go.
Nah, you got it.
With infinite, you know, I feel like every time a new Halo game comes out, it's kind of a cool moment to sort of hit the reset button and start from scratch and really build. And I know that you're obviously already hitting the ground, putting it all together and building as much as you can from now. One of the questions I have, I think about like other professional esports, and a lot of the times, even in sports, basketball, whatever, there's a lot of the times there's like a players union for players and stuff. And, in Call of Duty, we see stuff with like their GAs and things like that, where they kind of have a little bit of a say in shifting rule sets towards what they think will be the most competitive and work the best. Has having something like that in Halo ever kind of crossed your mind, sort of including more and more of the pro player feedback?
Yeah, it definitely has. And we have had multiple processes. I mean, you can talk to the pros, like talk about the times they've been on like Skype calls about a million other things, but there hasn't been a uh like the processes just haven't been super great. And we want to make sure we set the right expectations with players where like, hey, you have, a voice in this, but you're not the only voice, and we have to set expectations that like, yeah, we are listening to you. That doesn't mean that when something doesn't go your way or how you wish it, that we are not listening. So I think for us, like, player feedback is absolutely critical to this. And I'm out there. You mentioned it earlier, like people are tweeting at me all the time, like that stuff doesn't fall on deaf ears. And from all of the like feedback that we've gotten about the program so far, and I think I'm okay to say this, but like before the delay and all the changes, like there were players that were aware of what our plans were, and we got them on their NDA and walked them through all this stuff. So I think one of the things I'm most proud of for this Infinite program is just how collaborative we have been.
Mhm.
And players are one piece of that, but we've been sharing it with teams, and we've been sharing things with tournament operators, and just trying to get as much feedback and iterate on this thing as much as we can. So I think in terms of players union, like having a kind of unified perspective and voice, and people that we could work with to understand that feedback, like I mean, I can only see really upside from that. I think for us, like even if that doesn't happen, like we are going to have the processes in place to gather feedback about various things from the players. And like I mentioned, like that doesn't mean that this player says this thing and suddenly that's going to happen. Like you guys know it, being pros, like not every pro has the same opinion. I think what's important for us is that one, we set expectations for whenever we do gather feedback, so players don't think that when they say something immediately is going to happen, or these things are easy to change, whatever it might be. So we need to make sure we're setting those proper expectations, so players have an understanding of what the process looks like. And I'd also say that we want to work with everyone in the ecosystem to kind of gather feedback on things. So it's a critical part of us, and there are like new people at the studio and teams to help make sure that's true for Infinite, not only just like from a esports perspective, but for the whole game.
Very cool.
Definitely. So I got one more, and we'll kind of look to wrap this up somewhat soon. I don't want to keep you guys too long, but one thing, and I know me and Wes were talking a little bit. I hope I'm not kind of stealing his question, but
Go ahead. I mean, I'm sure it's not the first, the second, the third. I don't have any questions for you, Tashi.
Yeah. So my question is so in regards to the monthly updates, right? And we started the episode off, we started the conversation off with the transparency stuff, but I wanted to get a little bit more of information as far as, because it says starting in January, so right around the corner, we're going to be kicking off a new monthly blog series called Designing the Halo Esports Ecosystem. Each month we will dive into a particular piece of what our vision for Halo Esports is over the course of the year, and leading up to the release of the game, our goal is to paint a clear picture so you know what you're doing and why you're doing it. So In terms of this blog, is it going to be monthly up until infinite releases? Is it going to be 4 blogs, 3 blogs? How many blogs are there going to be? And is this kind of like is it going to be a continuation of what we're getting here, where every month we're getting more and more information, or is it going to be kind of all encompassed each time, and we're just talking about different subjects along the way?
Yeah, so the hope is that these are monthly from here on out. So they'll start as like the kind of ecosystem design and what that specific topic entails, which is a really huge topic. And then once Infinite comes out, I think the hope is that it switches to more like State of the Union updates, if for lack of a better phrase, where, hey, here was the recent tournament events that happened. Here was some of the feedback that we got. Here's what we're doing about it. Here's what you can expect about this upcoming event or thing like that. It's just a monthly touch point where we can share information and kind of close the loop, right? Because players, fans, and everyone's going to be sharing feedback with us, and so we want to be upfront with like how we are taking that feedback in and answering the questions, right? So I think that's the long term hope. And then for this kind of series in particular, so it'll cover these ecosystem topics, like designing the ecosystem, right? It has a very specific name and purpose. But that doesn't mean like all of the esports news will just be in there, right? We'll have different announcements that will, fall on different marketing activations and timelines. So I wouldn't expect that all of the news will be in those in that blog series.
Okay, so it's just a way to keep that communication open between the community and the team, right? So, which I think is awesome, because especially in today's like social media age, and I'm a big advocate of like the impact social media has had on our life, and how and I'm gonna write thesis about it one day. You guys will see. I'm gonna write about the way it changed the world. But no, so yeah, I think it's important, right? Like as fans and as supporters of Halo and of 343 of HCS. I think, like you said, it's not going to be all in. Not every piece of information is going to be in these weekly or in these monthly blogs. But I think it's exciting and encouraging to know that you guys are opening up that window and kind of letting that communication flow and building that relationship even further than you guys already have.
Yeah. And
So
I think
go ahead, Tashi.
I was just going to say, I think some of the topics, like some people in the community are just flat out not going to care. Like, we're going to go into, here's how tournament operators fit into the ecosystem and what's important. And like, I think a lot of people will care, and we hope everyone will read it. But, there are going to be some players that are just like, okay, this isn't important. Let me know when the game's coming out. You know what I mean? And some people are, that's just kind of their, what's important to them.
Yeah.
And that's fine. So for us, like, I think in the last couple of years, we have done some experiments, done some like tests, and we haven't been able to fully paint the picture as to like why we have done some things and how it kind of fits into like the overall vision. And so what I'm hoping is when we share some of this stuff, people will look back or think back and they'll be like, okay, now I see what they were trying to do here. So it'll go like the blog series will start with just kind of setting the table of like, Halo Esports is going to be an open ecosystem. Like, what does that mean? Why is it going to be that way? And then it will touch on like, who are all the different people in the ecosystem that we are trying to make come together, right? Ultimately for us, like, we're trying to create as many different like 1+1=3 type scenarios as possible. Right? How do teams work with players, work with TOs, work with sponsors? How do we build content that kind of fits into all of that overall? Because we feel like once all these things come together, that's when we'll get the biggest kind of benefits for everyone, right? It's really a lot of it in the past couple of years has been thinking about, for Halo Esports to be successful, where we have, like a lot of players that are satisfied, and we have growing amount of players, great competitions, great viewership. Viewership is a huge part of it. Like, for all of that to happen, it takes more than just 343 Industries. We can't put on all the tournaments. Like, we're not the teams, we're not the players. Like, we're obviously a super important part of the ecosystem because we make the game and we kind of orchestrate everything. But it really takes everyone coming together to make this what it really needs to be. And when you look at a lot of the like other ecosystems in esports that are successful, You could look at League of Legends as kind of like an easy example because they're one of the biggest, if not the biggest, right now. Like it has taken years for them to kind of get to the place that they're at now, where they're able to do the things that they need to do. And obviously, from when they started to where things are now, things are different. So we have to kind of like make sure that we are adapting for the times today. But it is a ton of effort from a ton of people, right? If you look at, let's say LoL Esports in the World Championship, like it wouldn't be what it is without the Fanatics, the G2s, the Liquids, and all this stuff. Like, and same with the players, right? Your Bjergsons, your Reckless of the world, like everyone kind of plays a part, even like the journalists, right? Like if you look across the ecosystem there, the talent, like everybody is involved in making that thing as great as it can be and working together. And that's a huge reason why it's so successful. And so I think we as an ecosystem and as the designers of the ecosystem, we need to kind of lean on each other. And what we've been doing is kind of trying to create as many different like mutually beneficial opportunities for all the different parties, right? When we look at tournament operators, we need to make sure that it's worth it for them to spend their money and effort in putting on Halo tournaments, right? And of course, if there are no Halo tournaments, then players have nothing to play in and there's not prize money. And so you can start to see how all these things are actually very interconnected, right? It's this huge web. And so we've been just putting the web together for so long. And this series is going to help kind of show all the pieces of that.
Very exciting. Very exciting. I can't wait. And like you said, yeah, Halo's fan base is so strong, and it goes back so long that I take pride in being a part of the community. I know we've been through so many different eras with Halo and Halo Esports that I'm looking forward to the future, and I'm looking forward to the blog and just getting things going, starting the new year. Looking forward to more information from as far as Halo Infinite goes, as far as the flight, the Halo Infinite flight. That's going to be really exciting. All the Halo insiders will get a chance to kind of play the game early, the unofficial version of the game, but still, the multiplayer, test it all out. So man, I can't wait. I'm excited. I'm just looking forward to more news and looking forward to getting my hands on the game eventually. And I'm just looking forward to all that good stuff.
Hint,
So Wes,
like NDAs, like I don't care, send it. Like I'll sign it. Like what do you want? You want my firstborn son too? Here, take him as well. Let's go.
Wes, I wanna pass it to you. And I know you've been, Wes, like since you kind of, like I said in the middle of the show, you're playing kind of both parts of the fence here. But I want to give the floor to you and kind of get your thoughts on everything and kind of see if you have anything for Tashi before try to wrap this one up. It's been a great episode again, and Tashi, we'll get to you before we close things out, obviously. But I want to give the floor to my man Captain Clutch here and kind of see where his head's at with everything.
Yeah, I think overall message from the notes today and how these conversations have gone. I think the biggest thing that can be preached is just transparency, and we touched on it a little bit, but how important transparency is for us to continue to grow, and it's great to hear and be a part of that future transparency that we want to deliver, and that it's a major focus of ours. I couldn't be more excited for that, and with that, I can only expect exponential growth, because I think when you start to be transparent, you just open up so many doors, and you just allow so many more people to assist you and get things done. So if you're watching and you're trying to take it all in, of all the news that you receive, just know that transparency is the major key, and the biggest point in all of this is that we want to be straightforward, and we want to attack transparency, and that's a good thing.
Very well said.
Maybe I get a lot of texts from saying when are you guys sharing more, like all this stuff. So really, Really, I'm doing it just to get Sane off my back. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that always surprised me about you. Like I said, Tashi, with your connectedness, is like you gave me your phone number and stuff. I'm sitting here, I'm like, I have the holy grail. Like I have Tashi's phone. Like, I'm like, man, this guy is like really, really, trusting some folks to be putting out information like that. But hey, thank you so much, Tashi, for being on the show and being a part of this and just sharing with us some of your vision moving forward. And I know, like you said, you've been there for 7 years. There's a reason for that, and I know that you're super passionate about Halo and want to see Halo and Halo Esports thrive. So thank you for taking the time to come on the show with us for an hour, man. Why don't you go ahead and let the folks out there know where they can find you and how they can connect with you?
Before I do that, can I ask you and Faisal a question?
Of course.
Of course.
Ooh, let me sit up for a second.
Oh, this is a change. I'm kind of nervous. No one's ever just broken it down. Asked us a question like this.
So, one thing I want to know from you guys is like, for the esports program, not talking about the game or gameplay or anything like that, but like, what is one thing in your minds that like, Tashi, you got to get this right? Like, for all of this to be, as great as we all want it to be, like, you got to get this thing right. Like, what is that one thing?
Justin, take it away.
And you said it can't be anything game related.
Yeah,
so
like
it's not like settings and stuff.
Program.
Yeah. Hang on. Give me like 10 seconds. I want to make sure I answer this right.
Okay. And obviously the game is like the stuff that's going to have the biggest impact. So
yeah, no, it is, but I feel like just really solid, distinct, and strong rule set is going to be so important for everything that happens outside of the game. No question marks about how this would be handled or what happens if this happens. Like a very, very distinct rule set, because I feel like so much, like I'm trying to think of I think of issues that happen and I don't want to just attack a symptom. I would much rather go straight to the source, like the cancer, and attack that instead. And I feel like a lot of the back and forth, the frustration that we have with TOs and different things like that, trying to figure out a ruling on X, Y, or Z, right? So just knowing, going in, using all of the issues that we've had as like a foundation to build a really, really strong, clear-cut HCS rule set is going to be huge, that everyone knows where it's at, everyone knows the protocol, and like kind of getting rid of all the extra fluff so we can just focus on what's important.
Yeah, so I can talk about that already. So
yeah,
obviously we were planning for a release around this time frame. So the full rule book and handbook, which includes like a code of conduct and how we expect players to behave and what happens if they don't abide by the code of conduct, like that's largely already in place. And, we're going to take the time now to iterate on it further and make sure it's out there before the game even comes out. But yeah, I'm glad you brought it up because it's absolutely critical for us. And that's something that we've gotten ahead of. So that will definitely be in place and clear for all the players and people participating in Halo Esports.
Can't wait to check it out. Can't wait. Go ahead, Faisal.
So for me, mine's a lot different than what Justin's was. Justin's was very specific, and I really liked it. But for me, if there was one thing I want to make sure we get right, okay, and you guys is Halo and these tournaments that we have, and the competition that we have, and the skill of the players, and how. And this is a Halo fan talking here, obviously, but it's amazing. Like Halo is the best competitive esport, and I will say that till the day I die. It has so much depth to it. What I want to make sure that gets done correctly is we advertise the hell out of all this stuff. I know you guys are doing this amazing partnership with Monster, and we got the codes on the cans. I want Halo to be in everyone's face. I want Halo anytime you go on Twitter, anytime you look at a commercial. I just want to see Halo being given out to the world on a much larger scale. Obviously, it's Halo, right? So it's global already. But my point being is I want the advertising and the marketing so that people tune into this stuff more and get to see the greatness that is Halo Esports and the production that obviously Matt and the team and everyone's going to be putting on. And it's just, there's so much greatness that needs to be witnessed by the world. And I hope that we get the information out in a way that everyone is able to at least know about it and tune into it. And it's just on a much larger scale. I don't know if I rambled there, but I think my point came across.
I totally got your point. Yeah. So I think in the past, like why we have honestly fumbled that a lot is one, we didn't have the right staff in place to do that. And two, we were always playing catch up from like a roadmap perspective, right? We've had so many scenarios in the past, and this is like early Halo 5 days where like we had pros and teams wondering like, or pros would come to us and be like, hey, there's a team that maybe wants to get in, but we don't know what the next season is or when that's happening. And so we were always like playing catch up on that. And so like to market it is just something that has to happen after that, because how can you market something you don't have? And so we were always behind on this thing, which means we were behind on everything else coming down the pipe. So I think what I'm excited about is we're working on the 12-month full roadmap, so getting that out in front so all the fans and players and teams and everyone knows like here's where it starts, here's where it ends, and here's everything in between. Like I think that will be a huge part to just getting awareness of everything that's happening in the ecosystem. I think the other part of it is we now have a stronger team in place to actually market things. We have people in the right roles, and we're going to be expanding the team a bit and adding some a person who can create some more content for us. So we also want to leverage the teams that we're going to be partnering with, right? Because they're obviously a huge part of getting fans and players and everyone excited about upcoming tournaments and whatnot, right? So if you look at a lot of like, you're talking about social media earlier, and like everywhere it feels like everyone's talking about a certain game or tournament, like a lot of that is driven by the teams.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the videos and highlights they produce, the interviews, the memes, like all of that stuff. So I think once we put all the pieces together, our ambition is that that's an area that will be way stronger than we have been in the past.
Awesome. Well,
Man,
great.
you just got me excited. Like I'm
Yeah.
like I came in like, oh cool, we're gonna hang out with Tashi. I like Tashi. This will be fun. But now I'm like getting out like pumped. I'm like, man, like let's go.
You guys missed out on one of the biggest opportunities that we've had in Halo
What,
history.
Wes? What do you got? Go ahead.
The correct answer, if you're asking me one thing that the HCS needs to nail,
Yeah.
it's HCS cheerleaders.
Okay.
We need
All
to.
right, guys. Great
And
show. Thanks for
how
having me.
great that could potentially make the events. I mean, I know I wouldn't
Can
complain.
we sign
one
you
bit.
up?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like
Absolutely. I'll be out there with them, no doubt.
All right.
No. In all seriousness, I think opportunity. I know I didn't get asked the question, but I think opportunity for everyone. I think if we want to nail something, and I think that opportunity is such a vague statement that you can couple it with marketing. To your point, Faisal, you couple it with a strong rule set that creates a level of professionalism, but opportunity for not we. And I know we also touched on this earlier in the episode, but opportunity for not just the top tier to be successful and to find that level of revenue and to be able to create job opportunities, whether it be content creators, professional players, semi-professional players, give opportunity for amateurs to get the semi-pro and pro opportunities. Just that's something that we really need to nail. I know I didn't get asked, but I wanted to answer.
That's a great point.
Good
Yeah.
And opportunity for HCS cheerleaders.
Well, on that note, Tachi, I want to give you the floor for just final closeout statements. Let the people know where to find you, and just close out the show. And then once you're done, we'll close it out across the table, and we'll get out of here.
Cool. So thank you guys for having me on this show. I think what you guys are building here is actually really important for the Halo Esports ecosystem, right? A like reliable, trustworthy source, upstanding people in the community that they can go to and hear the news, and hopefully hear news like this, and people they can think of as kind of like friends they get to hear from once a week. So thank you guys for putting this on, and I'm honored to be part of the 20th episode. So this has been a lot of fun. And like I am a long time listener. I haven't listened to last week's, but usually on my Monday runs is when I have you guys going. So thank you guys. Also, of course, and just echoing what was said in the blog, like huge thank you, especially to all the competitors who've been grinding it out. Really, like this year and the last few years, like we know the wait for Halo Infinite has been really long, and it's tough to get on and play Halo 5 for the 5th year in a row. Like that's not lost on us. We don't take that lightly, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that when Halo Infinite is out, that you have an awesome program to be part of and something you can be proud of. So thank you to everyone who's been just grinding your hearts out. I think we can never kind of understate how much we appreciate that. So yeah, huge thank you to everyone that's been supporting along the way. Yeah, in terms of socials, you can tweet at me at Tashi343i on Twitter. Let me know what you thought of this interview and what you thought of the blog and anything else about the upcoming blog series that you'd like to hear about. I'm all ears. I don't respond to every single tweet, but I do read pretty much all of them I can. I unfortunately missed some, but yeah, I'm an open book. So yeah, I think that's it for me.
Great. Well, for everyone here at On My X, you'll find all of our socials and everything in the description. We're gonna put Tashi's stuff in there too. Make sure to tweet him all your questions. Get at Tashi. He's gonna be the man that you want to go to. And
Tweet at him twice because he did
Yeah,
say
comments
he
him
could
here on the YouTube
potentially
video.
miss one.
I could.
Yeah. He's not gonna miss two.
I've been called out for missing tweets, so I just want to be upfront. Like I'm not perfect.
Yeah, no, we do appreciate everything you've done and are continue to do for Halo, Tashi, and from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for coming on and giving us such an inside look at everything. And thank you for the blog. If you guys reading it, let us know in the comments what you thought about the blog, what you're looking forward to for HCS, Infinite, all that good stuff. Let us know, comment, share, retweet, all this stuff. But until next time, guys, On My X, episode 20, we are out of here.
Peace.